You got two choices when you're dealing with a bully like Donald Trump, when you're in a trade war not of your own making. You can either bully the bully, like President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, or you can bow down and bend over, like Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada. Both things happened this week. Which one was effective? I'll break it down for you right here on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Take a minute, hit the subscribe button as I sit, Michael Popok, at the intersection of law, politics, and economic and foreign policy. Let's pick it up with the way that's effective and the winner of the threat by Donald Trump to wreck the trading relationship between Mexico and the United States, which is worth hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, approaching $1 trillion, and how you deal with it if you are the Mexican president. She won that battle. It was a battle of social media postings. Donald Trump's back doing social media postings. But she, Claudia Sheinbaum, a environmental scientist with a PhD who's super smart and was ready for this, it was as if she planned ahead about how Donald Trump would immediately go after Mexico and try to wreck relationships and contracts and deals that he himself signed back in 2016 in his own North America Free Trade Agreement, his own version of it anyway, when Donald Trump said, I'm going to tax and tariff our way into economic ruin by taxing and tariffing Mexico 25% for imports and exports. She reminded Donald Trump very quickly that she was going to tariff back at 25%, and that will lead to 500,000 American jobs on the other side of the border, poof, disappearing overnight, and a rise in food prices immediately. And that backed off Donald Trump. He said, I had a phone call with Claudia Sheinbaum, very productive. She's going to close the southern border. Within an hour, she fired back in social media and said, no such thing. We don't believe in closing the border. We don't have to close the border. We believe in building bridges in our communities. We've done other things to stop the caravan of people and the border crisis at the southern border, but we're not closing the border. And immediately, Wall Street responded with a victory for Claudia Sheinbaum, the peso against the dollar rising almost 2%. That's the way you handle Donald Trump. And then you're able to announce, as Claudia Sheinbaum did, you're able to announce there will be no trade war between America and the United States, not because she bent the knee or kissed the ring or any other body part of Donald Trump, but because she fought power with power. You know, I don't know who Donald Trump thought, if he even thought about Claudia Sheinbaum, but if he'd done any research about her, he would have known that she was going to outwit him and outmatch him. She wasn't just your typical environmental PhD doctorate scientist. She came up as a student activist. She was the president of the student council in Mexico, in a major university, which led her right into politics. She has very solid political instincts and leadership qualities. She reminds me, frankly, in a very positive way, to Nancy Pelosi, who grew up in a political family in San Francisco and made her way, of course, the Speaker of the House. And we know that Nancy Pelosi often got the better of Donald Trump, who secretly admired her. She was one of the few people he didn't attack by nickname or ridicule, even though she was a woman, which is Donald Trump's favorite targets for ridicule and misogyny. He's met his match with Sheinbaum. Maybe that's what we're watching again. We're watching a strong woman, not just speaking truth to power, but speaking power to power, reminding Donald Trump in her letter to him and to the public that Ford and GM, car manufacturing, very strong in Mexico, been there for 80 years. And that's the first place she's going to place a tariff and wreck the auto industry, hitting Donald Trump right where he lives. The Canadians, on the other hand, sort of handled this a Canadian way. Justin Trudeau decided that he was going to be the first leader of any of the G7 countries to go bend the knee and kiss the ring down at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know why he wanted to give Donald Trump that photo op, and literally there's a photo op of a dinner at Mar-a-Lago, with a whole bunch of potential cabinet members sitting next to Donald Trump. You got the Commerce Secretary nominee and his wife, Howard Lutnick, there. You got the future senator from Pennsylvania sitting there, and others around this table, all to greet Trudeau. And Trudeau being sent there for a number of reasons. One, there's a history between Trudeau and Trump when it comes to the G7. And Canada is hosting the G7 again. And he doesn't want to have happen what happened the last time when Donald Trump in a huff left the Alberta summit at the G7 a number of years ago when he was president. So he's trying to do that. He's trying to save his hosting, which would be a major diplomatic flap and make him look bad at the G7. So he's down there for that. He's down there because his provincial leaders are telling him, don't start a war with Donald Trump and make nice with Donald Trump. Okay, I will. So he goes down there and gives Donald Trump exactly what he wants. And instead of having what happened in Mexico, just to show you the difference, in Mexico, where power spoke to power, with Sheinbaum out dueling Donald Trump and winning that trade war without one shot being fired, just in social media posts, where she out-dueled him at the thing he's supposedly good at. We have that. And then he announces everything's fine. There will be no trade war. We're done. Canada? He leaves Canada. Trudeau leaves from the conference. And Donald Trump says, we had a far-reaching conversation about fentanyl, about the trade deficit between Canada and the U.S., and we got a lot of work to still do. In other words, he didn't even give him the bone of this guy coming down because Donald Trump doesn't respect. I am sure they were high-fiving in the whatever they're using as their transition office when they got Trudeau to fly down to meet with Donald Trump about the 25%, so he can go brag about it. And he accomplished nothing, by the way. If I were Donald Trump, I would not try to F with the $770 billion of trade that goes back and forth between the two countries. Sure, there's a little bit of a deficit. It's about a $60 billion differential between the amount that we export to Canada and the amount that we import. Maybe because things in their area that we want in America, like construction goods and energy and natural resources, are more plentiful there and more valuable there. Maybe we just have to work harder on our side of the border on our exports. But just to put it in perspective, $67 billion is not that big of a deficit. The country I thought that Donald Trump cared about and got everybody fired up about was China. China has a $280 billion advantage per year in trade, meaning we import into America from China goods that are worth $280 billion more than what we send into China. Okay? Canada is just $70 billion. It's 1/4 almost of that amount. Just to put it in perspective, Mexico is $152 billion, right? So it's already more than double Canada. Germany is $83 billion, higher, 15% or so higher. Japan is even higher trade deficit than Canada. And yet it's Trudeau who decides for his own political problems and his own political weakness that he's going to go down and go kiss the backside of Donald Trump. Let me advise here on Legal AF. In the future, follow the lead of the Mexican strong leader in Claudia Sheinbaum. That is the only language that Donald Trump will respect. It's the only love language that he understands, which is flexing of muscle, not genuflecting in front of him. That was a big mistake by Canada. I don't know who his advisors are. Trudeau looked weak. He looked apologetic. He looked like he was there for appeasement purposes. And I doubt that it's played well. And we'll put up some of the headlines in Canada, especially among Trudeau critics. He should have just stayed in Canada, where I think if this was a different moment, not because of Trump, if this was a different moment and the G7 wasn't coming up to be hosted by Trudeau, he doesn't want egg on his face again by Donald Trump storming out, so he felt he had to go down there. That's the major reason I believe we just saw Trudeau on bended knee, hat in hand, go down to Mar-a-Lago. Because it is the optics of it terrible for the Canadians. And they should learn from it. I think if the G7 wasn't coming up, I don't think Trudeau would have done that. I think he would have stayed there and he would have pulled I'll call it a Sheinbaum. He would have pulled a Sheinbaum, basically lay out the case why The trade deficit is really minor between two countries that have almost $800 billion worth of trade. And it fluctuates over time. And maybe just challenge America to have stronger products that Canadians want to buy and enter some trade deals. You have a trade representative, Trump. Enter some more trade deals. It's basically, look, that delta in the grand scheme of trade between countries is minuscule. It's like one more contract, one more military contract to build something, one more export, segment export getting into Canada. And that'll solve that problem. And their fentanyl argument, there's so much fentanyl. Fentanyl is not coming out of Canada. Fentanyl and the major agents to make fentanyl for addiction is coming out of Asia, okay? And counterfeit goods and counterfeit chemicals also there, and not Canada. And the border problem is no border problem. Just to give you an idea of the border problem, in what we call immigrant or migrant interactions, which is people trying to come across undocumented. In Canada, in the entire region of the border around Canada, that counts. In the upper part of the United States, in New England and those kind of areas, the Midwest, in the kind of Rust Belt of our area, interactions there, 15,000 a year. Not nothing, but to put it in perspective, in Mexico on the southern border, it's 2.2 million. We don't have a major problem with Canada, okay? And Trudeau's probably like, what is going on down there? What's going on down there is Donald Trump wants to be the big 800-pound gorilla of North America and optically wants to claim credit for things that he's not responsible for. And Canada just played into his hands, likely because I said before, he's hosting that G7 summit and he doesn't want Donald Trump storming out and wrecking the entire hosting for him. I'll continue to follow it all. I have a background in Wall Street. I have a background with some of these people that we're talking about. And I will, to the best of my ability, I will talk about and analyze and not stay quiet about things at the intersection of law, politics, and in this case, trade. And the trade war, won by Mexico, lost by Canada already. And of course, that just makes Donald Trump a winner in something that he should have, where he's normally a loser. I'll continue to follow it all. You're here already? Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button, and then let's try to get this channel up without any outside advisors in collaboration with the Midas Touch Network. We're shooting for 500,000. Help us out. Hit the subscribe button. Until my next contribution on all things Legal AF, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.